Welcome to the Rose at Home channel. I am Rose, I am at home, and Adalia is making her way to visit me sometime tomorrow morning, probably around the same time I'm going to post this for you to be able to watch. So I'm so glad you're here. I am positive I'm fine. Hopefully I have power and all of that, but I wanted to film this early just in case anything happens because I didn't want to miss my time with you. And so with the storm pending, of course, my thought was, what are some great books to read when you're weathering a storm? So not necessarily this one, but who knows, we're going to have a ton of them coming up. So I picked a set of books that are things that I really like, that I think tend to be on the shorter side. They're not all super short, but they tend to be on the shorter side. They tend to be easy to fall into. They tend to not be more difficult reads. They tend to be something that you can just batten down the hatches and curl up with a good book and possibly even finish it within the day of the storm. So I picked one book for each of 7 different categories, and I hope that you enjoy this. So I decided to start with the mystery category, and the pick for that one is Agatha Christie's Crooked House. I absolutely loved this. It is actually tied for my favorite Agatha Christie story with And Then There Were None. Basically, the story of this one is there is this giant mansion, there is this family full of very eccentric people with weird relationships between them. The patriarch of this family dies, they realize that it's murder, but who in this family did it? There is also the fiance of one of the family members who's there, who is going out of his way to try to solve this crime. There's twists, there's turns, there's a huge twist at the end. It was so much fun beginning to end. I absolutely adored this, and I think it would be an amazing read for a storm day. My pick for a fantasy read is one that I have talked about so much on this channel. I tried to talk myself into picking something else, but this is the one that if I hadn't read it and I sat down on a storm day to read it, I would just sit there and read it beginning to end. It doesn't fit for being short, as it is not short, and it is the first in a duology. So if you've got a couple of days, maybe with no electricity, but that's not happening to us, we have to not have So if you've got a couple of days where you're kind of stuck inside and stuck with some books, this and the sequel are great ideas. And of course, I am talking about Leigh Bardugo's Six of Crows. Again, sorry, I've mentioned it so many times, but it's that good. It will keep you in beginning to end. There's no slow parts. There's no falling. I'm sorry, I'm also watching the storm. There's no slow parts. There's no falling out of it. All of the characters are interesting and intriguing, and also you're kind of drawn to them, or at least I was. So really quick premise, a group of kind of misfits and thieves get pulled in to pull off what is told to them to be an impossible heist. And so they have a leader who brings them all together, and they make all of the plans. Think a fantasy series, Ocean's 11 type thing. And it's so fascinating, it's so intriguing. You're rooting for thieves and you can't help it. And they're awesome and wonderful. And this is really, if you like fantasy and you're stuck inside and you're just waiting for a storm to pass, this is such a good option. The next category I picked is mythology, and I pulled Silvia Moreno-Garcia's Gods of Jade and Shadow. This is, I think, the first book of hers that I ever read that got me hooked on her writing and what she's able to do. It's so good. So it is the story of a young woman who is cleaning for her grandfather. She finds a box, she opens it not knowing anything, and it turns out she has released the Mayan god of death, and he needs her help. And then the hijinks ensue. It's so good. It's a mythology we don't see a lot. We see a lot of things with Greek and Roman mythology, but Mayan mythology, not as much. But it's so well done. It will keep you in the pages beginning to end. It's not super long for Mythology. It's got a great cover. It's just that good. And so if you've got a storm coming and you've got time to just sit and read and kind of wait for the weather to pass and you love mythology books, this is the pick for you. The next category I picked is sci-fi, and for this I picked Martha Wells' All Systems Red. Look how short this is. So if you're not a super fast reader, or you know you've got just one day and you want to be able to read something beginning to end, this is a great choice. It's fun, it's sci-fi, it's space, it's spaceships, it's androids. This is about a security bot, a security robot, kind of. They're more of an android, who calls themselves Murderbot. No one else calls them that, but in their head they do. They have figured out how to turn off the ability to be controlled. So they have given themselves the ability to make their own decisions. They are still working their job. They're still kind of hiding in plain sight. They don't want people to know that they're not blindly following orders, but they are not blindly following orders. They're following the orders that they choose. So they get put on this ship to be security for this team of scientists and stuff and things, and it's so good. And Murderbot is so funny. Again, if I didn't say this, if you hear the storm or the light changes, it's the storm. We're starting to get, I guess, some outer bands. So I'm going to hurry up. But this manages to put into this short of a book pretty much all the things you want. You've got stakes. You've got characters you are really invested in and care about. You want to see what happens to Murderbot. You want to see what happens to the scientists on their ship. It's so incredibly well done and fast-paced, and I think this would be perfect for a storm day. The next category I picked is contemporary fiction, and I thought a great choice would be Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have yet to read something of hers that I didn't absolutely love, but this was brilliant. I keep hearing people talk about wanting or suggesting that you listen to it in audiobook. And that's probably great. I don't really do audiobooks, but I loved it in writing. Like, I could definitely hear it in my head. It is told in interview fashion. There is a character who is interviewing the members of the band, Daisy Jones, well, of the band The Six, and you get the whole story of how Daisy Jones, who was a solo artist, and her life, and you get the Six and all the things that happen with them, and then how they become Daisy Jones and the Six, and all of the things that happened there, and how they, I don't want to like spoil things. It's 70s rock and roll and all of that stuff that comes with that world. It's another one, just like Evelyn Hugo. You want to go look up the band when you're done, because they seem so real. It seems like these were real people and real musicians, and this was all stuff that really happened. It is that well written, and as much as it's not super short, it's not super long, and again, it's written in interview fashion, so it reads really quick and would be a great place to jump into and escape from a storm. I don't know if you can hear the storm, but I got one right outside. It's like sunny and raining. I know I'm like super bright and washed out right here. Like the sun is still breaking through the clouds, but I've got rain going. So anyway, so my pick for if you like horror, I don't do horror. I don't do hard horror. I have no recommendations for that because I don't read that. But if you like something that's kind of horror and gets pretty scary and has its moments, my suggestion is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. It's not super long and it reads really fast. It is a dual timeline. I think most I don't want to say all because I haven't read everything, but every Simone St. James I've read has been dual timeline. There's someone kind of in the today and there's someone in the past. So in this, the in the past is this young woman who 18, 19 years old, gets a job at the front desk at the Sundown Motel, and she ends up going missing. So we find that out because the second timeline is her niece, and she has lived her whole life with her mom, who never got over the loss of her sister and never knowing what happened to her sister. So when she is old enough, she leaves home and she goes to try to investigate and ends up getting a job at the front desk at the Sundown Motel. And so there's lots of stuff that's going on. There's missing people. Are there ghosts? Are there not ghosts? Is it haunted? Is it not haunted? So many hijinks ensue. It is superbly written. It's a very tightly packed. It's gonna keep you going. It's gonna keep the pages turning. And the jumping back and forth sometimes can slow things down, but in this case, it actually sped things up and made it one that was next to impossible to put down. I so think if you like that kind of horror, haunted motel, missing people kind of thing, then you would love to spend a storm day reading this. And the last category I picked was literary fiction. What I thought might be a fun read on a storm day is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And this is great. It is gothic. So it has a lot of, when I've talked about other pieces being gothic light, this is the full jump in. So this is about a young woman who is never named. She is sometimes called Mrs. De Winter, but other than that, we don't know who she is. And she's kind of having not the best life. She meets and is swept off her feet by a much older gentleman, and he marries her and brings her back to his house, which is called Manderley. It's this giant sprawling mansion, and his first wife, Rebecca, has died. And so the new Mrs. De Winter is basically expected to step in and become the matron of this house, to be in charge of the staff, to help to run things. But it doesn't go super well. And so there's lots of kind of, again, hijinks kind of ensue. Some of it is in her mind and some of it is not. She's quite the character. She's not always likable. Sometimes I wanted to shake her. I don't know if you'd want to shake her, but sometimes I just want to jump in and be like, oh, come on. But if you like that kind of thing, if you like that gothic kind of thing, if you like classics, I feel like this one moves at a good enough pace that it could absolutely be a storm read, and you could go to Manderley for the storm day and wait out the storm there and have a great time. So I really hope that you enjoyed my picks. If you like lists like this, I do them on occasion and I have more planned coming up. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you'll get to see all of the different types of lists that I put together of books to read when you like certain genres or in certain situations. In the meantime, I really hope that you have a wonderful and safe and dry, or as dry as we can be, rest of your week. And I really hope that you get to read some great books, even if you're stuck in a storm like me. Okay, bye y'all.